Hello, my name is Bryce Ryan, and my character trait that we're doing today is humility. As a teacher and as a coach, one of the character traits that I see lacking all the time is humility. A lot of kids grow up and their parents tell them that they are great at such and such a sport, and they believe that, and they think that the sport revolves around them. The other thing that I found interesting was that the Bible references being humble 72 times. And when the Bible references something more than a few times, it emphasizes the importance. So I wanted to know what the dictionary said about humility. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition is freedom from pride or arrogance or the quality or state of being humble. My personal definition of humility is recognizing that oneself or myself isn't greater than another. One of the very best examples that we can ever look to is in the Bible. And Christ's example of humility is beyond anything that we can imagine. And one of the verses that sticks out to me is Philippians 2, verses 5 through 7. And it says, "Have this mind among yourselves, which is yourselves in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men." Now, when you think of that verse, it shares that Christ came in the form of a servant and man. Now, he's still fully God and man, but came to earth as a servant to serve people. He also came to this earth to die for everyone, despite of everyone's sin. Now, an example of humility in basketball, that I'm a huge North Carolina fan. And when you watch North Carolina play, they point to the player that assisted their basket. And this is a emphasis from the Dean Smith era when he was coaching at North Carolina. Back in the days of Michael Jordan and James Worthy, every time you see an assisted basket, the North Carolina player points to the player that assisted to them. And that's just a sign of recognizing that that player can't do it on their own and somebody set up that basket for them. Now, here are some characteristics of a coach that shows humility. A coach that shows humility is one that listens. Now, as a coach this year, my first year being a varsity basketball coach, I listened to my players a lot, listened to what they saw, listened to what they were going through, listened to how practice was going, what they wanted to change. And another characteristic of a coach that's humble is one who learns a lot. Now, as a first-year coach, I had a steep learning curve. I wanted to go and learn from all different coaches, the coaches that had a lot of success before me and coaches in the league that have had success. And I wanted to pick their brains about what worked for them, what didn't work for them, so that I could learn. Also, a coach that shows humility is one that opens hearts. Now, a coach oftentimes will tell the player, "You should do this because I said you should do this." Now, for me, I've always wanted to be a coach that reaches kids. I don't want to be a coach that just, "You should just do this because I said so." I want them to be able to learn. I want their hearts to be opened up to me so I can teach them more than just about the game of basketball. A humble coach should also serve each other, should serve the players on their team. For me, service is required in the Bible, and I always thought that a coach should be serving their athletes. That means if they need a few extra bucks to get a jersey, that you could shell that out. Or if you need to meet with them on occasion to see where they're at, you do that as well. You give them rides, all that kind of thing. Those kind of things serve your athletes. Another thing is they should be building up each other. Coaches should build up their athletes. They should build up other coaches. They should build up their assistants. That shows humility as a coach. You should put your assistants in position to give you feedback and all that kind of stuff, because that shows that you're humble as a coach and that you don't have all the answers. And another one that connects to others, you should be reaching out to coaches. You should be reaching out to other people of leadership so that you can be learning still. And respecting officials. And I know that this is something that I can struggle with from time to time, but a humble coach respects the officials. Lastly, they should be a humble winner and a gracious loser. If you are a coach that is used to winning, um, the goal should never be to embarrass somebody and to compliment the other coach and the other players on what they've done well. And when you lose, congratulate the other team and tell them that they played well. Now, example of a humble coach is John Wooden. Every time you talk about John Wooden and one of his ex-athletes, they always say how much of a humble servant he was. One of the things that he always did was he left each locker room that he was with spotless. One manager was quoted saying that he went to a gym and he heard all this loud noises in the locker room, and it was John, the coach, John Wooden at UCLA, picking up all the trash that was left in there. And another thing that he would do is when he would go to the Final Four, there would always be this line for coaches and what have you. And he could have gone, jumped the line, and given all these credentials, but he thought it was super important to wait in line because he shouldn't have anything more than the other person. Humility as a leader is one who promotes others, will work collaboratively with their staff, with other staff members, co-workers, towards a common goal. One should also have high integrity. That means doing things that you should be doing even when people aren't looking. One that's appreciative, always thankful of the opportunity, and one that's often admired. When you talk about coaches or leaders that are leading with humility, people usually will talk about them in admiration. One example of a humble leader is my dad. He always gives other people praise for his success. My dad has a couple of insurance companies and a couple of online companies, and you would never know it because he is never comfortable sharing what his success. And he never wants the credit for what he does. He always deflects the praise on his coworkers. So why is humility important? According to Ethics 101, in reference to pride, not only does it have the potential to undermine our ethics, it can also interfere with our performance. Humility is important because it gives us an opportunity to think of ourselves less and others more. We can never do anything alone. And lastly, God calls us to show humility in every way that we can. Thank you.